All right. And so when you make a motion for the agenda. All right. Thank you for allowing us to start a little tardy this evening. I'll go ahead and call the regular Planning Commission meeting to order for Wednesday, May 2nd. Roll call, please.
I thought I pushed it. Chairman Christopher Sipple.
Present.
Vice Chairman Brian Anderson.
Yep.
Commissioner Carl Bloomfield.
Here.
Commissioner David Cavaney.
Here.
Commissioner Greg Froelich.
Here.
Commissioner Brian Johns.
Here.
Commissioner Joshua Ayler.
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Seth Bonda. Alternate Commissioner Daniel Cifuentes.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and call for approval of the agenda. Vice Chair, please.
Chairman, it's been recommended that we move item 20Z17-1014 Nationwide Realty Investors to the public hearing consent.
Okay. Number 20. Now 20 is on non-consent. We're wanting to move it to consent. Got it? Good now? Okay. Yeah, that's all right.
And with that change, I recommend approval of the agenda.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on to the communication from citizens section. At this time, members of the public may comment on matters within the jurisdiction of the town of Gilbert, but not on this agenda. The commission's response is limited to criticism, asking staff to review a matter, or ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on items not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to the public hearing consent. All items listed below are consent calendar items that may be approved by one single motion unless removed at the request of a commissioner for further discussion. Other items on the agenda may be added and the consent calendar approved under a single motion. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on items number 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, or 20? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and call for a motion. We're actually going to do two motions because Commissioner Froelich needs to abstain from a couple items.
Yeah, I need to declare a conflict on items 15 and 16.
So we'll do two motions, one with it and one without.
Chair, I motion we approve the public hearing consent items 12, 13, and 14, and 20.
Motion's been made by Vice Chair Anderson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Froelich. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I'll call for the second motion, please.
Chair, I motion we approve items 15 and 16.
A motion's been made by Vice Chair for public consent items 15 and 16. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right. We'll now move on to the public hearing non-consent. Non-consent hearing items will be heard at individual public hearings and will be acted upon the commission board by a separate motion. We're going to go ahead. Wow. Was it something I said? We're going to go ahead and move on to items 17 and 18. They are companion cases, but we'll hear them individually. So that's GP 18-01 Pecos Road GPA. And Amy, I think I'm sorry, Amy. That's okay. Everyone was leaving. You were trying to keep them to stay for us. Thank you.
You're welcome. No, I was actually checking the box for you to make sure nothing.
Oh, thank you.
All right. So, 17 and 18. Here we go. Mr. Chairman, members of Planning Commission, you did see this last month at study session. It's Pecos Road GPA amendment for 36.6 acres and a rezoning for 9.92 acres of BWZ Auto Holdings. If you'll recall, they're located right off of Pecos Road between Lindsay and I'll say the Motorplex. It is with the general plan. I'm going to start with the general plan first, but this is an aerial showing you the location, and you can see that there is some automobile storage happening on some of the sites. Some of the sites have been cleared of that at this point, but we have been working with an active code case regarding this code violation and working with the neighbors also on a quite often basis, just to make sure there's good coordination going on and that the code compliance case is being resolved. So from a general plan standpoint, I just wanted to let you know that I did go back historically and look at the general plans. I went all the way back to 1986. And due to the Chandler Air Park's overflight and Part 150, it actually goes over this area. And historically, this area has been in the general plan since back in 1986, and I didn't keep going after that. I kind of said enough's enough and stopped. It has either been industrial, commercial, or employment of some sort, and our general plan has consistently followed that. So it is our general plan business park for predominantly most of the area, and I do have those maps. What this map is showing you is that the growth boundary for the 202 Central or 202 corridor core is in purple, and it does go along Pecos Road, down Gilbert Road, back across, and then down again and up over at Val Vista and on to the mall area that we just discussed. So this is within a growth area that is slated for employment and intensity and density. We also are within, part of the properties are within the vertical overlay, which is 90 foot, 6 stories by right. So today, someone could go in the lower part of those properties, build a 6-story building. So actually, and when we get to the zoning, I'll talk about how the zoning is actually not maximizing it the way it could be maximized today by right. But from a general plan standpoint, you can see that there's a lot of regional commercial, business park, neighborhood commercial, and other general commercial uses within this area, not only due to the overflight from Chandler Air Park, but also due to the intensity and the corridor with the freeway right there. As you well know, we are going to be getting an interchange here at Lindsay Road in the next few years, and that will change the character of the area and intensify it at a greater level than what it was even planned at, and it was already planned with some intensity, so now it's even going to go the next step. We do have a general plan update that is coming forward, and that is why we're not bringing you a whole comprehensive land use component of this to show you where it's going, because we're going to let that process work its way through and see how it shakes out. But we do know change is coming. We can see it, the development bubble, as a lot of the business world likes to call it, is hitting Lindsay Road right now, and it's creeping toward Val Vista. And as that creep occurs, we as planners start to see an uptick in the projects that are occurring along that bubble. And you're seeing it move, and you're starting to see more and more projects in this. We've seen it at study sessions for projects south of Germain Road that you looked at last time, and other projects in this area. So it's not surprising that the Motorplex and other users in the area want to move into this area, as Rivulon is doing quite well to the west and moving toward the east. So it makes sense that this is growing and changing. So also I wanted to throw in the general plan circulation map. As I mentioned, there was a study done in this area. I mentioned that last time. And you can see that Collector Road is planned, and it's called Lexington, where it connects to a signal that will go into Rivulon and then continue across, and we hope to connect it into the backside of the Motorplex loop. Coming down off of Spectrum Way, it's a major way. Fry turns into Spectrum Way and then continues south, and it will continue into this project to give accessibility to all the properties within this area. And that was one of the things we really looked at in the study, is that every property in here, eventually, either with local roads, and this is just showing collectors, but with local roads too, every property has access. Because right now, a lot of the properties have not been able to develop because there's no way in and no way out. It's a big block of larger properties, larger horsey lots, or just vacant lots. There's a lot of vacant land in this area. A lot of it has an annex. But we've had calls and calls over the years, but people can't get to the parcels. They don't even, in some cases, have easements going to the parcels. So this circulation plan is going to help us move toward that. And you can see in the addendum you have this evening, some of that was addressing to do with circulation within the area. From the general plan standpoint, we are looking at the subject sites, and that was my oops on the drawing. This is included. So you have these parcels here, not including this not a part right here. I'll call it the flag lot. Our general plan amending, and they would like to go from business park to general commercial. Staff is not opposed to this. We think this area is going to be changing, and general commercial is consistent with the uses within the motorplex. I was asked last time about the motorplex and the vacant land. All the land is spoken for. There's nothing that is available within there, and if you notice, there's a lot of construction going on in and around the motorplex right now. So it continues to do quite well, and we can see it continuing forward. So with that, these are the official proposed general plan maps, which state the general plan categories that surround it. So as you know, on the south side of Pecos, we're looking at business park, even for the residential homes to the east. They have been business park for a very long time. And then the neighborhood meeting, residents from Spectrum did come and attend the neighborhood meeting, and they are aware of what we're doing. And they're also aware it's already general plan business park, and we did talk about the impact of commercial across the street from them. So with that, we continue to move forward to the zoning site, 92 acres directly adjacent to those existing residences. We have been working with the neighbors. In fact, the separation wall, the 8-foot separation wall, might be put in early. We are working with the applicant to go ahead and put that up just so they have some separation now and during construction, so that it's not all happening with their pipe rail fence right in their backyards. From a large-scale standpoint, if you see the zoning up here, there are some that are zoned business park and neighborhood commercial in the area. A lot of it has not been annexed yet, so it is not zoned other than Maricopa County RU43. But as they come into the town of Gilbert, they will rezone to be consistent with our general plan, which, as I stated, was business park at this point in time. So here's the property, and there's the rezoning to general commercial. With that being said, there's a couple things I want to point out as far as on the development plan. In discussions with the neighbors at the neighborhood meeting, lens height and the lighting from the commercial center was one of their concerns. So based on our land use code, within 100 feet of residential properties, lens height is 14 feet. Now, they're zoned business park, not residential. However, the applicant did agree at that neighborhood meeting that they would lower the lights in those areas to make shorter poles and to also screen them so that you wouldn't have light flow onto their property. The 8-foot solid wall, which once again, being business park, they're not actually obligated to do, but they did agree to do that to help screen the neighbors and to have some separation. And then they also agreed with the neighbors to limit their hours of operation for this property from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., which is not required by our code. This is just a clip out of that circulation study that I said that staff worked on with an independent consultant. And you'll see that Spectrum Way is indicated in red as a collector. Lexington is indicated in red as a major collector. And then the blue collectors were decreased at this junction to a minor collector heading to the motorplex and a minor collectors heading north-south. And that was in response to some preliminary land use planning, taking a swag at where we think it might go, but as I said, we'll firm this up a little bit as we move forward with the general plan update. And that also on the parking, not parking counts, but on the roadway peak counts, so that the traffic engineer who worked on this for us thought that at those junctures they could decrease. So with that being said, I already covered these, but I will note that right now, they're proposing their height at 45 feet for the property, and they are providing all of the setbacks as appropriate. I will note in your addendum, what was changed was instead of a 40-foot major collector, that was my mistake. I should have said 33-foot half width for a minor collector. And one of the things that our town development engineer asked to add was that in the interim before the collector roads all exist and start to connect, to just go ahead and do an easement down on that south part where the collector road would go, and then in the future, the dedication will occur and an in lieu payment will be made so that the financing for the road construction will occur at that time. But there's no point in building asphalt that goes to nowhere. So that is the addendum that was put in your packet today. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you. Thank you.
Amy, thank you. This is a public hearing, so I will ask, is the town the applicant on this? No.
No, but the applicant is here.
Yeah, so I'd ask the applicant if they'd like to make a presentation to the commission.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. My name is Ralph Pugh, and my office is in Mesa. It's a pleasure to be here this evening with you on behalf of BWZ LLC, which is the owner of the property that is requesting rezoning tonight. That's a partnership comprised of Henry Brown and his partners in connection with the land acquisition. I think the best way to approach this without taking too much of your time is to simply say we agree completely with the staff's analysis of the general plan and of the zoning recommendation to you tonight. They've done a wonderful job of explaining this area and why it's important to change from business park to general commercial. If I could, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to take just a minute and address questions that were raised at the study session that I think are really good questions, and when answered, they'll put in perspective why the general plan should be approved and answer some specific issues with respect to the zoning and our neighbors that are here with us tonight and the commitment that we've made to them. So first of all, this is a great shot of what you will see soon in a design review board application. These are the elevations and the site plan that will be coming to you in the near future. Now, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission, this is a picture, an aerial of the acreage that we're talking about in the general plan amendment. And you can see here we have 36 acres, give or take, comprised of 5 different owners. So one of the very first questions that was raised by one of the commissioners at the study session was, why are we doing this for just 2 parcels of land? The reality is we're doing it in this way because we've gone out and gathered 5 owners so that we could get just less than 40 acres to do a minor amendment. Otherwise, we would be in a major amendment process, and we wouldn't be hearing this case until the end of the year or next year if we couldn't get everybody on board. So I wanted the commissioners to understand that we did go out. We worked hard with the joining owners, and quite frankly, I'll show you another exhibit in a minute that shows you where the patterns are headed here. But I want to point out this parcel right here that Amy indicated was not a part. This is the flag lot that goes all the way up to Pecos. We now, as BWZ LLC, own that property. So we will be here quickly with a general plan amendment to update that piece to round out this acreage and make it a nice square and a developable parcel. We could not include it in the application months ago because we could not get cooperation from the trust, the institutional trust that owned it. So we bought it. And we'll come back to you with that one. So hopefully that answers the commissioner's question about why are we doing this piecemeal? We're not. We're doing it close to 40 acres, and there'll be others coming in the future. So this is the acreage, and the zoning piece you can see is right here. This is the 9, almost 10 acres here that will be requested for zoning. So I think this exhibit also should answer the question of piecemeal. In reality, there is approximately 140 acres of land south of Pecos, east of the canal, and west of the Motorplex, okay? Taking into account the residents that live immediately next to the Motorplex, without that acreage out, it's about 140. And commissioners, there's 35 different owners in there. So to expect one property owner to go get 35 other owners to agree on filing an application is almost impossible. We had a hard enough time getting 5 people to agree and to sign the application. So we were really happy with that. But I can tell you, we are having conversations with other property owners in this area here to do the same thing, to come in and amend the general plan from business park to general commercial so that they can move forward with potential development in the general commercial category. I think Amy indicated the difficulty of developing this in business park. It's hard to state how difficult it is. This is ideally suited to either expand uses from the Motorplex or to have other general commercial uses that are much better suited than a campus-like environment of high-tech businesses together. That's very difficult to execute without the freeway frontage and the exposure that it would take up here on Pecos Road. So I just wanted to show you this as an example again of how we're trying to come back to you with more cases, and as Amy said, do this and let it evolve at its own pace. Now, there was another question at the study session about, well, why don't these people, BWZ, the Henry Brown's partnership, if they want this land just to park cars, why don't they just lease some land within the Motorplex? Good question, fair question. First answer is, we're not interested in just parking cars on the 9 acres, 10 acres we're rezoning and asking you to approve. That will actually be a new used car dealership that will display vehicles, that will recondition vehicles, it will detail vehicles, all in those structures that you saw on that first exhibit. All enclosed, all air-conditioned, no what they call car blowers in the car wash areas, very sensitively designed to the neighborhood. We're not just parking cars. We want to run a new used car business at that location. But here's the answer to the question of the auto mall. You can see outlined in yellow here, there are 2 parcels that have yet to develop in the auto mall. One is 7.3 acres interior to the auto mall, and another is 1.7 on Pecos that adjoins the Salt River Project water well and substation, whatever they have there. That's it. That's roughly 6% of the mall. And frankly, Commissioners, I had the privilege of representing Bill Lund and Conley Wolfswinkel and others when we did the spectrum to begin with. It was everything from Williamsfield Road down to the freeway that was not built yet and no one believed it was coming, and on both sides of Val Vista. And at the time, people were saying to us, you'll never, ever develop a 130-acre motorplex. It's too much. Frankly, it was the largest motorplex proposed in the state of Arizona at the time. I don't know if there's a bigger one now, could be, but this was the largest. And it has totally developed except for those 2 parcels. And those parcels are not suited or designed for parking and for what Henry Brown and his partners intend to do here. A small dealership could go there, or a small specialty use out on Pecos. So it's predominantly developed, and frankly, we're delighted with the success that it's had. So I think that answers a couple of the questions. There was another question raised by one of the commissioners that dealt with the residents. So here at this location, you see the residents that live on 147th Place. Let me just give you the timing and the perspective for that. As Amy indicated, all the land west of those neighbors has always, at least until the mid-'80s, been in the general plan for non-residential purposes. Industrial, commercial, business park, whatever. These homes, the earliest home here in this area was built in the mid-'80s. Most of the homes were built mid to later 90s. The Spectrum project and the Santan Motorplex came after those homes were predominantly built. I don't have every one of them, but generally speaking. So at the time, both the council and the residents knew and understood that there would be the Santan Motorplex west of them, and that everything, east of them, and everything west of them was non-residential. And so despite, and in light of that fact, we have nevertheless reached out and committed to those neighbors to build the new used car dealership there in a way that is sensitive to them. And let me highlight that to you here with a few items that we've committed to. And also to remember, those neighbors agreed to zone their land business park. All but one, I think, of their houses that's in Gilbert is zoned business park, even though they live there. I think there was some type of an arrangement made with them with respect to allowing the use to stay and maybe some expansion rights. I'm not conversant with that, but something to that effect I'm sure happened. But here's what we've done to be sensitive to the neighbors. First of all, let's get to a quick version of the site plan here. First of all, the car wash areas that are in a tunnel in these buildings will have no blow-dry air compressors. There's no what they call car blowers in these facilities. Secondly, all the detailing and the reconditioning that will occur in these buildings, which by the way will be phased. We certainly aren't going to build all these buildings at first. They will be all enclosed, air-conditioned, and all work on the vehicles will occur there. And it is light repair. There's no auto body work. It's all reconditioning and detailing of vehicles. We've committed to the neighbors to the east to build an engineered, where's my friend Barney, an engineered 8-foot block wall. We had an unfortunate incident that the letter we sent to the neighbors with a picture of the fence and the details was done by our architect to get it out to the neighbors. Our engineer was not yet finished with the engineering details of that wall, which we know we need to do and we will do as part of the building permit. In addition, we've agreed that the lighting will be 14 foot tall if it's within 100 feet of our property owners to the east. The hours of operation are 7 to 10. There are no loudspeakers on the site. We've also met with and talked to the owner on the west of us who may or may not want auto uses, and we've committed to an 8-foot block wall on that side also. So, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission, I hope answering the thoughtful questions that were asked in the study session kind of put it all in perspective and how we're not just taking this thing with a small parcel or two at a time. We're doing all we can do in a minor general plan amendment, and we're going to move forward and be doing more in the future. So with that, I'll be quiet, Mr. Chairman. We urge your positive recommendation on the general plan amendment and on the zoning case. This will be a great business addition to Gilbert. The used car sales here are going to be wonderful, and we'll have an opportunity to recondition and detail vehicles for the GMC dealership that's in the Motorplex. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners.
Thank you. Again, this is a public hearing. If there's anyone that wishes to speak on this, if you could please complete a yellow card and bring it up to the front. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak regarding items Z18-02 or GP 18-01 or Z 18-02? Seeing none, I'll bring it back up to the dais for questions and comments. Who would like to start, and who would we like to ask him to? Mr. Pugh. Mr. Pugh, you want to come back up? Commissioner Cavaney, want to get us started? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate it. Hi, Mr. Pugh. Just, hey, real quick, I want to make sure I understand. So what we're seeing here is the combination of the 5 lots that you talked about, right? This is the almost 40 acres that we're seeing here?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Cavaney, what you're seeing here that you will see in DRB soon is the 10-acre site.
Oh, this is just
This is the 10 acres.
the long one just adjacent to the residential?
Just the
Okay.
new used car dealership here. Correct.
Okay, and so then what, do you have some concept for the other? Yeah, thank you. Let's go back and look. That's great.
Right.
Okay, and so that's the brighter green or blue, seafoam green right there, right?
Correct.
So then for the rest of what you're kind of consolidating there, what is the thinking for development?
At this, Chairman Sipple and Commissioner Cavaney, the answer to that is each of those property owners is still considering that.
Okay.
I'm sure they have some development ideas or potential buyers, but the general commercial gives them much greater flexibility to
I
make it
see.
meaningful.
So you brought them together just to get this zoning to GC together. Got it.
To do
Okay.
the general plan on 36 acres
Okay.
and then zoning on roughly 10.
Perfect. All right. And I appreciate addressing all the previous questions. Those were all things lingering in my mind, so I appreciate that. I think asked and answered. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ehler.
I just have a question on the flag lot. You said because I had concerns, I wasn't here last month,
Yeah.
so it sounds like my commissioners had some of the same concerns. But the flag lot, if you're bringing that back to us, and are you going to be able to come under a minor amendment to the general plan with that small amount of acreage?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Ayler, we have not met with the staff yet on that because the acquisition just occurred, but I'm relatively confident it's going to be a minor amendment and pretty straightforward to include in this land.
Well, I was just saying, I thought there was an acreage, the reason why you went to the larger amount of acreage, and if it's a standalone case at that point.
At this point, that 3.5 acres, the flag lot, could be done either alone, or we're having discussions with about 30 acres south of this.
Okay.
3 different owners. If that evolves, then we'll put that other piece with it. Now we'll have a nice square plus another 30 below it.
Okay. And I guess, and then getting to the design side, I guess with the new street that we're going to ultimately have, the minor collector, it was going to be collector, minor collector in front of you guys. Yeah, right there. I noticed in the site plan, you have turning radiuses that are going out there. And how are you looking at doing the frontage? Since that will be a street at this point, your site plan seems to back up to that street.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Ayler, you are 100% correct, because at this point, we're not sure when that'll happen. If it happens before we expand to some of those buildings further south, then we'll certainly design the southern end to face the street, right? We're going to have a through lot, in essence. We'll have Pecos and Lexington.
Right.
But for now, it may happen, it may not in the near future. We'll just redesign when that time comes. We know we need to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? Are there any questions for staff? Thank you, Mr. Pugh.
Chairman.
Yeah. We have any questions for staff? Amy? Commissioner Bloomfield?
Thank you, Chairman. Amy, and this may be this is just more my curiosity than anything else. Over when the hospital developed, Mercy Gilbert, and then there was a 160 acres south of it that the town kind of took control, because at that time it was frantic and crazy with everybody trying to apply for a different zoning case. And so the town took over it and did kind of this comprehensive general plan amendment down there and took care of it with all of the participants being there. Does something like that make sense here, or is there just not enough inquiries to justify going through that process, or is it just more of a headache?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Bloomfield, members of Planning Commission, it's not a matter of lack of interest. It's a matter of timing in my mind. You're referring to ID 20, Germain and Val Vista PAD. And we learned a lot of lessons from that one, too, to be quite honest. And some of those lessons we didn't want to repeat over here. So that is why we started with the circulation study. And that is why that circulation study was also brought into the general plan circulation update that happened. Okay. And we are moving into a general plan update. So with that being said, we thought about jumping ahead and putting the cart before the horse and kind of saying, okay, well, we know we have this interest, and we know there's a lot of county properties here that are also being used for auto dealership uses, and we know there's a lot of interest, but let's go through the general plan process. It's right here. It's starting. It's on our doorstep, and let's look at it in a bigger picture instead of just, even though this applicant wanted to move forward quickly, and these 5 parcels are moving forward. And if anyone else comes in, we're going to entertain the discussion. However, we had an outstanding code compliance case with our rezoning parcel here, with and the other parcels that were being used for auto dealerships were in the county. But we needed to deal with this for the neighbors, because this was an ongoing issue with the neighbors. We understand Brown & Brown's desire to move on to this property, but we also wanted to solve the problem for the neighbors. So we decided to go ahead and move forward with this. But as in total, with the changes that are occurring and everything, we wanted to look at it with the general plan. So that's why we didn't jump on board and do a major general plan amendment at this time. Does that answer your question?
That answers it perfectly. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll add, just to add.
Yes.
We did a lot of easements over in ID 20. We did not want to do easements here. We want dedicated public right-of-way so people have good legal access, and you're not waiting for your neighbor to let you build on their property. So that we really wanted to take hold of this in a different way.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for staff? I just have one. Amy, are you going to be responsible for the work on staff end, working the Pecos to Lindsay, this 100+ acres?
It has not yet been assigned.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it shakes out. But I definitely will have my fingers in the mix somewhere.
Yeah, the only reason why I say that is, you've really done a phenomenal job with Santan Village, right? I feel like you've kind of had that whole area there you've been working on, and as that's starting to exit itself out, I see this new piece starting to build itself up. And so, lots of hard work and dedication and long hours I know go in on staffs to design and forward think all of these these nuances of the property. So I just wanted to give you a shout out and appreciation for that. So thank you. I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back up to the dais for discussion, if there is any. Commissioner Cavney?
Yeah, so I think initially, as I looked at this case, I was just a little concerned still about the condition of the adjacent neighbors and so forth, but I think all those issues have been answered, and I can fully support this.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and call for a motion. We'll have to do each item separately, so I'll call for a motion on item number 17. And we need to remember the addendum that's attached.
Thank you.
Is the addendum for both 17 and 18, so we need to read the addendum for, okay, thank you.
Hold on. Let me get the language up. All right. Sorry, Chairman, hold on. Okay. Okay, Chairman, I move to recommend approval to the Town Council of GP 18-01 with the proposed addendum provided to Commission.
Okay, a motion's been made by Commissioner Cavney. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bloomfield. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 18 for a motion, please.
Okay, okay, I'm on case.
This is Z18-02.
Yeah, here I got you. Okay. For the reasons set forth in the staff report, I move to recommend approval to the Town Council for Z18-02 BWZ Auto Holdings as requested, subject to the conditions listed in the staff report and according to the addendum.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cavney. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Froelich. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 19, which is DR 17-1137 Gilbert Town Center PAD. Ashley, good evening.
Good evening, Chairman.
Again, Ashley, I don't know what I keep saying, but every time I'm done speaking, massive amount of people leave. Yeah, oh, well, aren't we lucky?
All right, Chairman Sippel and Commission members, this is DR 17-1137 Gilbert Town Center. You saw this just a couple of months ago as part of the rezoning request for a PAD amendment to amend the development plan. Just to orient you, this is at the southeast corner of Gilbert and Warner Roads, just north here of Town Hall on the vacant property. As you know, this is part of a larger PAD for Gilbert Town Center, including the Broadstone apartments that have been constructed along American Heroes Way. The subject site is currently vacant. As you know, Broadstone Apartments has been built, banner bisecting the site. Phase 1 of that has been built with future phases already approved but not yet constructed, and really unclear on when that might happen. The total site is 25.3 acres for Gilbert Town Center. The subject site that is the applicant's proposal today is a 14.69 acre portion of that site. As you know, there was a use permit approved to allow that multifamily and regional commercial. A large component of that is integrated mixed use, and so I think that'll be the primary focus of our conversation this evening. The applicant's site plan proposes at this time three buildings as part of Phase 1, along with all of the landscaping infrastructure, parking, driveways, and those items. There are a number of access points for this facility, 2 off of Warner Road, 2 off of Gilbert Road, and then 2 off of American Heroes Way. So there really is great access to the site. In terms of the integration of this with the adjacent or the nearby multifamily, staff really wanted to make sure that we were looking at those pedestrian connections and really focusing our review on, is this a pedestrian-friendly environment that draws pedestrians where they feel safe moving through the site, understanding that the banner site separates this from the multifamily in which it was intended to connect. That was really our primary focus, and again, just ensuring that pedestrians feel welcome to this site. And we think that the applicant has done really a phenomenal job in doing that. The orientation of the buildings, the location of Major A and Major B and Shop C kind of in the center of the site, break up that parking field, which then leads to linked trips, so that when somebody does visit the site, they're not walking through one very large parking field to get to some of the other buildings. So we think that the layout of the site has done a really good job in creating this really friendly pedestrian environment. Again, at the moving on to the landscape plan, just so you can see in color a little bit better, that hard corner there of Gilbert and Warner has a welcoming pedestrian node, a gathering space for residents. The applicant has added some seat walls along American Heroes Way, and throughout the site, there's a plaza between Major A and Major B. Again, just really activating the pedestrian experience on this site. They have provided ample landscaping. 22% of the site exceeds the 15% requirement. Pavers throughout delineate those pedestrian pathways. And then the board-formed seat walls provide opportunity for pedestrians and those visiting the site to have a seat and spend some time there. In terms of the elevations, this is a very contemporary building. Primary material is stucco. There is two kinds of stucco, medium stucco and smooth stucco. Color banding breaks up the site. There's large storefront windows on shops A and B to, again, activate that pedestrian experience. Looking at just some renderings, some perspectives, you can really kind of see how those buildings move. In terms of Major A, this is a two-story fitness building proposed, a maximum height of 35 feet. At the very top, good movement, both vertically and horizontally with some of those pop-outs that you see. I also have the colors and materials board if you wanted to take a look. I'm not sure if the colors of the drawings really do justice to the colors proposed, so I did bring this if anybody wants to take a close-up look at that. And then some perspectives of the fitness center. Staff does recommend approval of this, subject to the conditions. I would be happy to answer any questions that the commission has on this item.
All right, Ashley, thank you. Yeah, the town is, we are the applicant, yes? No, I keep getting that wrong, I'm sorry. All right, the applicant is here.
Correct.
And I want to absolutely give Mr. Gilbert an opportunity to speak. Yeah, you're welcome.
Good evening. For your record, Paul Gilbert, 701 North 44th Street. I'm sorry I can't walk and chew gum at the same time, so I have to have Dennis run the exhibits for me.
Job security.
We're very pleased to be here tonight. At the outset, I think it's important as we reason together that we focus on the fact that the town council has voted unanimously in favor of this project with the zoning and development last month. We are in agreement with all design review stipulations. Staff is in support. May I quote a statement that was contained in the March 7th minutes from your planning staff as follows. They have worked with the applicant to make sure that this is a pedestrian-friendly environment so that the residents from the multifamily project feel comfortable walking to the site, walking through the site, and moving through the site. At our work-study session, the pedestrian movement was a key and integral part of what you asked us to focus on. We're pleased to tell you we've come back having done that, and I think that comment from the staff vindicates the position we are taking. We have no neighborhood opposition. In fact, our neighborhood meeting was a love fest. That was the first time I've ever been to a neighborhood meeting when I was offered free coupons for chicken wings. So we're here in good shape with the neighbors. Most people are very happy to see this site finally develop. No one is more happier than I. This is not a speculative venture. This is the first real proven developer who has been able and willing to take this project through. They're for real, and we own the property. This is not a speculative proposition. Indeed, the only way to have a true mixed use is to approve this retail proposition this evening. Now, I apologize at the outset for being a little, perhaps too much detail and whining somewhat, but let me just present to you, this is one difficult site to develop. It's a unique and non-conventional RC site. I'm going to develop that basic predicate in just a moment. It has large street rights-of-way with utilities along the right-of-way and the canal path crossing the center. This site is a classic infill parcel. This, I might add, and I've represented every one of them, this is the fourth developer, count them, the fourth developer that has tried to develop this site. Again, vindicating the difficulties and challenges that this site presents. Some of those problems are, we have retention problems. In fact, our position is, town hasn't agreed with us in total on this, but at least in part, some of the retention problems were created by the town's actions in the past, resulting in drainage problems necessitating our processing a CLOMAR and readjusting the drainage on the town-owned property to make this project work. We are in agreement with design review stipulation number 4. Design review stipulation number 4 says we will enter into a development agreement to pay a portion of the infrastructure improvements required along Gilbert Road. We are the only parcel at this intersection that is required to do that. And the town has basically let this develop. It's a very high traffic, very busy intersection, and it doesn't work without some additional improvements. And we are in agreement and have worked out the details of that stipulation number 4. I know you're tired of hearing this, and this hopefully will be the last time I ever have to make this point here. But there are 3 parcels here. They were all part of the RC. Banner is the middle parcel. And Banner came in and said to the town, we don't want to be part of this integration. We want to be separate, go our way. And the town council said, okay, we'll let you do that. There was no change on the 2 end pieces. Importantly, you as a planning commission, and I'm a little amiss to say that because none of you were on the planning commission at the time, but your predecessor planning commission specifically pointed out to the town council, if you remove this Banner parcel, the center parcel, you have made it very difficult, if well nigh impossible, to do a thorough integration with the other 2 parcels. Town knew that, and they made that decision anyway to let the Banner parcel go ahead. So, Banner got its request, and we're now dealing with the 2 end parcels. Now, despite that, and despite the challenges to make this an integrated parcel to comply with RC, we submit we have done so. And my basic premise to you this evening, and the fundamental predicate of the rest of this presentation, is we virtually have done everything I know that is possible to do to integrate this parcel Not so much with Banner because they're separate, but we are doing that, as we'll see in a moment, but also with the apartment complex at the other end. First of all, I think we need to focus on the Access Master Plan. This plan shows the extensive vehicular and pedestrian access throughout this entire RC zone development. Banner, the apartments, town hall, and retail. They were all part of this original RC case. American Heroes Way, completed by the apartment developer, helped connect these uses. Coming back to Banner, Dennis will point out there is one misnomer on this access plan over which we have no control. Otherwise, these connectivity and these access points are all proposed. The one that isn't is across the Banner property. We were asked when we did the apartments to go to Banner and see if we could put this connecting trail across the Banner property. At the time, they chose not to provide that, but that was not a dispositive and final answer. They made it clear to us that as they develop phase 2 in the future, they could well consider doing that. But with that sole exception, all these connections and all these activity points are here and extant and part of the plan that is being presented to you this evening. I mentioned American Heroes Way was completed by the apartment developer. There's about 300 feet from the edge of the apartment site over to the retail site. The apartment developer installed that, and that is currently completely constructed. We are providing on-site shaded sidewalk connections between all 9 proposed buildings. Sidewalk shaded connections between all 9 buildings. Again, focusing on the integration. On-site sidewalks are 9 feet wide, also with shade coverings, placed in front of the shops to further enhance the pedestrian experience and the integration and connectivity. There are 2 concrete seating wall areas that are provided at the southeast corner of the site to draw those from the apartments who are coming from the apartments a place to rest or enjoy some leisure. This is further illustrated by the streetscape design, which will feature the same street theme, trees, plants that match the design character already described. Again, another vindication of integration, and integration, again, the best we can possibly do. We are also assisting the town with installing trees along the town side of American Heroes Way. We're not obligated to do that. We negotiated that with Mr. Maris, and we have agreed to do that. That again shows the integration that we're talking about. The proposed contemporary style of architecture is thematically consistent with the existing town center, complex apartments, and Banner. We also are providing similar or compatible choices in color materials such as metal and steel overhangs. Now, let me wrap up. I have prefaced this wrap up with an apology. It's somewhat redundant of Ashley's comments, but I think they're important again to show the integration. You said at our work study session, if I could see some pedestrian integration, I'd feel much better about this project. My loose interpretation of the general guidance that many of you gave us. Let's focus on that aspect. The major pedestrian enhancement at this intersection abuts the canal trail. Concrete pavers have been provided, as indicated earlier, and/or exposed aggregate concrete will be incorporated for traffic calming as well as directional wayfinding. The interior pedestrian area between Shop C and Major B and Major A. Pedestrian areas between Pad D and Pad E on American Heroes Way. Buildings on site have been located to break up the parking field, another concern evidenced in our work study session. Reducing the distance a pedestrian must travel through a parking field. The layout is compact and configures buildings and parking areas and driveways in a way that lessens dependence on the automobile. Buildings on site front streets, i.e. Gilbert and Warner, as well as American Heroes Way, creating a nice pedestrian or quasi-downtown impression for those using these streets. Lastly, reduced walls due to the buildings being strategically located and placed along street frontages and not large surface parking areas creates, again, a visual sense of openness and more pedestrian interaction exploration. In conclusion, let me just state that we listened to you. You gave us some direction, very good direction, and actually 2 work study sessions that we had with you. We believe we've responded in every way we can. Is this a perfect integration? I will be the first to tell you it is not. Is it an integration where we are using every feasible method of integration that we can? Yes, we have done that. I think the staff has told you that. We're vindicating that assessment. And for these reasons, we hope that you would recommend, or that you would vote to approve this design review application. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Gilbert.
You did give me a full opportunity to speak.
This is a public hearing, so if there's anyone here that wishes to speak on item 19 DR 17-1137, please fill out a yellow card and bring it up here to staff. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on this item? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back up to the dais for questions from the commission to the applicant. Commissioner Ehler.
Thank you, Mr. Gilbert.
Why did I not know you would be the first?
Well, I can say you've come a long way. And overall, as a shopping center, I think you've done an extremely well job. Good. I appreciate it. The movement in the corner for shops A and B, not having a blank wall, having a covered area, and tying it, developing the Gilbert Warner corner, the shops A and the major A, having some movement in the buildings. I think overall, as a shopping center, very good job. Mixed use, I still don't agree. So I see the connections. I still feel you've done a good job with trying to make the shopping center tie to Gilbert and Warner, and that's ultimately probably the best thing to do for this site as a design. But for it to be mixed use, it's completely putting its back to the multifamily and Banner, but Banner's not really a part of this discussion because they're out on their own island, which I agree back in the day was right before I got here. It created this issue that we are here today with. But I feel that there's still a possibility of true pedestrian connection, not using the right-of-way and putting a couple of concrete blocks down and saying, hey, we made the connection. And so that's kind of where I look at, if we're looking at the design, I'd still try to get more landscape and more covered. You say there's a covered walkway to all 9 buildings. I guess, is that just via landscape? Because I don't see a covered walkway all the other
Yes.
spaces.
It is landscape, yes.
Okay, and so we're waiting for
Remember,
full
we
maturity.
exceed the landscaping requirements
Yeah.
substantially.
And I appreciate that. And like I said, I think the conundrum is we're RC, and that's where I still have the issue. As a retail, I think it's done well, and you've over landscaped. I can see you have the portions, but I see the connections. We still would have a access route from American Way to Shops A with a tree boulevard, but I don't see, there's definitely some major gaps that still don't have trees. So I would say it's not fully covered. It's a sidewalk with trees next to it. So, I mean, I guess my issue is how would we still deal with this? And I don't think we'll come to an agreement on how, on the RC portion.
Thank you. Other questions for the applicant? Commissioner Camming?
So a couple quick things. I noticed on one of the staff site plans where it showed all three parcels, there appeared to be a parcel or at least some open area between the Banner development and this development. See, there it looks completely filled in, but on one of the ones that staff was showing, it looked like there was something undeveloped between them. But that's not the case, right? We're developing right up to the Banner improvements, right?
We are.
Got it. Okay. It looked weird, and I wanted to make sure we didn't end up with a sliver we couldn't do anything with. Yeah. So.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioner, we have actually provided an access point.
Right. Oh, I saw that. Okay.
Banner.
Yeah.
But that's Banner's call.
And they haven't accepted that yet?
They have not.
Got it, okay. All right, next question. So the trail from the apartments, where does that enter here? Does it enter on just north of Shop C, or does it enter down in the bottom right corner, in the southeast corner?
Yeah.
I couldn't tell exactly where it converged.
The southeast corner.
It does, it hits the southeast corner. So the trail does not traverse what would be Banner property, right? It stays up along the back of the street curb?
Yes.
It's a city sidewalk.
Yeah.
So that is the trail? Okay. Okay. And it looks like from that view, I can't see it very well, but I'm just concerned, you talk about shading internal to the lot. Are we trying to shade some of that connection to the apartments with trees or anything? Are we providing any softening of that exposure to that trail?
I apologize, Commissioner. I'm not sure I'm following your question.
So one of the big sales to the RC mixed use kind of situation is that in fact, the one main mixed use argument was we're doing a trail. Is that trail shaded in any way? Is it so the users that are going to go between these two parcels, are they going to be shaded in any way as they make that journey?
I'm sorry, I understand your question
Okay.
now, Mr. Chairman and Commissioner. That sidewalk was put in by the apartment developers. It is not shaded. It's a sidewalk, and it's there. We are adding, though, some additional trees on the other side of American Heroes Way on the city-owned property.
Okay.
So we are providing some additional landscaping, some additional integration through that vehicle.
When you say the other side, can you bring that picture back up and help me? When you say other side, you don't mean the south side of the street. You mean on the street side of the same, so like right, so you're adding trees along the street side of this, not the property side, or are you doing them across, you're doing them over here on the south side of the street?
Yes, we are, and we're doing it on the town property.
Got it, okay. And you were asked to do that? You were asked to add some more trees there? Okay. Okay, very good. So I think my only comments prior to any motions or anything is, I think you've done a good job with what you've got, right? I appreciated your explanation of some of the challenges you've had, and I want this site developed as much as anybody. I think this is it's important to the town hall area. It'll help fill that out. I agree. I am still so disappointed in the original, let's make this mixed use, when for me it's very far from that. But I know that you've tried to do what you can. I believe that moving forward with the development is probably more important than hanging on to my bastion of mixed use definition. But With that said, I really, I hope this is a great success for you. I think it will probably go through, and I hope we don't, as we start chalking up which projects are mixed use, we tout this as one of the key ones, because I don't think it really got there. So anyway, good job, though. Yeah.
I will not use this as an example.
Example of, okay, thank you.
We've got you on record with that, Mr. Gilbert.
It's all right.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
I just need to mention that I do have a conflict on this item.
Yes. Commissioner Ayler?
So I guess, knowing the connection, I guess, in making that connection, can we focus on having a little more trees along American Way so that apartment connection can be well landscaped? There, near the sidewalk, there's, out of the mix, there's 2 or 3 along American Way. That I'm just looking at the landscape plan that's provided to us. If we could add a few more trees onto that side so you can get a shaded walk to that direction.
You want us to take them off the town's property and put them on the other side then?
No, I'm not taking those 5.
Oh, okay.
I'm just trying to have
You
a
want
full
both?
shade. Yeah, I want both. I want a full shaded walk if we're going to say this a pedestrian connection.
Let me check with the architect on that.
Can I make a quick statement about the,
Yeah. Go ahead, Mr. Johns.
if we, c-
Oh, actually, you know, let's.
doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
let's hold real quick. I think the architect was, thank you, sorry.
Commissioner Ayler, I don't know if you can go back to the landscape.
I have to bring that mic up a little bit. You're a tall gentleman, so I have to bring that mic up to you a little bit more.
Is that better? Dean Mooncachi, 6111 North County.
Thank you.
Scottsdale. So what we did is we did a survey of what Broadstone had installed and also what small amount of landscaping was on the city side. So we tried to integrate and match the same densities that the Broadstone project has and actually match the same planting patterns, same varieties. So there's a continuation of the same overall character all along the north side of American Heroes Way. Not a horticulturalist, but I can tell you that most landscape architects are against the idea of clumping too many trees together because then the trees don't reach their maturity and aren't really able to provide the shade that they're intended to.
Right.
But yes, I mean, we are intending that over time it will be a fully shaded.
Well, because that was a statement given to by the great, wonderful Mr. Gilbert, that the walkway is completely shaded, connected through the 9 buildings.
I think he was talking about the interior.
I was talking about the interior.
No, I understand that, and I don't know if it's fully shaded at that point due to parking spots, but I'm just wanting some connectivity because and I understand what you're saying because in a statement that I made in a previous case, jamming too many trees in together, it's not the way to do it, but there's some huge differential in space between the trees that are closest to the sidewalk. And I know it's nitpicking, and I never really get into a design like this, but if we're saying this is the connection, this is our place to hang our hat on, then at least let's try to make it more shaded.
I think the best answer I can give is that we will, in good faith, take a look at that. I don't think we can commit this evening to how many trees or where they're going to go.
And I wouldn't want you to. I would just want you to truly take a look at trying to make that a shaded connection, a true shaded connection.
Okay?
Commissioner Johns, sorry about that.
if we can pull up that full map again, please. So in that one section, those trees that you're adding is actually in that dirt area because I don't think it actually, oh, thank you. Does that work? Those trees are the trees that you're adding? Oh, you're talking about back over here then. Because on the aerial that I'm looking at, those trees don't exist in that area unless they've been added recently. But my comment is there was if we're adding trees to the city's property, I don't know how important it is to the town or to the planning department, but there is a pattern to how the trees are laid out Jump Studio, when they put it together, they actually had a feng shui, if you will. So I'd just like to make sure that, we kind of followed that a little bit on, there is a pattern coming through. Again, on my aerial, none of these trees are showing, so I don't know if that's part of the graphic that we show here. I can probably look real quick on my aerial.
I think everything they're talking about is north of American, north and east of American here. Oh, you're going to add stuff to the south of it as well?
They mentioned that they're adding stuff to the south side, so
Oh.
I'd just like to keep keep going with the design that this town was set up on. I mean, or at least take that in consideration. I don't think that's the board to place, but as the town works with them and they're adding trees, I just want to make that a consideration. And doesn't have to be part of any of the approval process here.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioner, may I comment on that?
Sure.
We are not planting the trees. We are paying for the trees, and the city will do the planting.
Yeah, okay.
So as long as the city takes consideration.
Yeah, you can direct your question to them, not us.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? All right, thank you, Mr. Gilbert. I would just comment as you leave the podium there that I sure hope the fourth time is the charm. And if it's not, I'm excited to see the next project to come to us. But I feel like you got it.
Well, thank you. My
Yes.
kids are already through college, so I
Oh,
don't have time.
all right, are there any questions for staff? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring it back up to the dais for comment. Is there anyone that would like to make initial comments?
Chairman,
Commissioner Bloomfield.
this project has been, this property has been needing to be developed for a very long time. And while not perfect, I agree with what Commissioner Cavaney had to say, that even though it's had its challenges and it still continues to have its challenges, not all of which are necessarily created by the property, but perhaps by some other neighboring kind of conditions. I think they've done a good job of trying to take into account that it is RC, that it is intending to be integrated to some extent, and we would all agree that this is not a crown jewel for the town of Gilbert, but I think it's a satisfactory job, and I would recommend that we move it forward and approve it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Ayler?
I guess I've made all my statements and multiple times. I just ultimately want to have on record that this is not a standard that we should be looking forward to in a mixed-use property into the future for RC, for how it's integrated, for how it's designed, not the issue, but as integration and elements for a multifamily to a shopping or retail. This is not a integrated piece. So, and I just want to make sure that gets to the record.
Thank you. Commissioner Cavaney?
So one of the things we haven't really talked much about, but I think bears a little bit of visit as we discuss, is the elevations and colors and schemes that they put forth. This is DR. So I think, we had some comments on this last time. I think you addressed them. I mean, Commissioner Ayler mentioned some of the activation you did, and I think that's really good. I saw the comparison that you showed of here are the apartments, and we're trying to do similar things. Unfortunately, the apartments aren't tremendously decorative either, so it's hard to bring over a lot, right? But I see that you made the effort, and so I think it'll fit fine into the neighborhood, and it will contrast probably okay with what is on the west side of Gilbert Road pretty well as you look at some of that over there. So no negative comments or anything about that regarding the elevations, but I just wanted to comment that has been considered as I've reviewed it, and I think it's fine.
Thank you. All right, can I go ahead and call for a motion for item number 19, DR 17-1137? Commissioner Bloomfield?
Chairman, I move to approve DR 17, or item number 19, DR 17-1137, Gilbert Town Center PAD, along with any conditions and recommendations from the staff in the report.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Bloomfield. Is there a second? Second. Second by Commissioner Johns. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Have a good evening, sir. We will go ahead and move on to administrative items. Item number 21, Planning Commission minutes. Is there approval of the minutes from April 4th, 2018?
Motion to approve the minutes of April 4th, 2018.
Motion's been made by Vice Chair Anderson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Cavaney. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 22.
I'm not in that vote. I wasn't here.
Correct. Commissioner Ayler is absent-minded. Item number 22. Report from chairman and members of the commission. Any items? Thank you. We'll move on to our report from our council liaison on current events.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
If you haven't heard the news yet, all of the public schools are canceling again for tomorrow. I just thought I'd share that with you because I know that you've been busily working up here on the dais. I'm seeing them pass on social media at the moment. Legislature has not passed the budget yet. They're still working. For a couple updates on the town of Gilbert, last month I announced that we would be voting on a potential tenant for the university building, and that was approved by a majority of the council that evening. Park University is very excited to get started in there, and I think they'll be moving into the building in June. We have hopefully 2 more tenants coming forward that I hope to be able to share that news with you next month. I think it's very exciting for that area and for that building. It's a great use of that location. I was able to do a tour of that building a couple of weeks ago, and I forgot really how nice that building is inside and how really well that nursing station was set up on that 3rd floor. So whoever gets in there is going to really love it. If you didn't hear, Morgan Stanley announced 250 new jobs in the town of Gilbert down in the Rivulon area, and that's very exciting news for us. And we also hope to have another couple of announcements coming up with the potential for about 5,000 more jobs. So keep your fingers crossed on that, and I will update you as soon as I have that information. This past Monday, we celebrated with the City of Chandler on the expansion of the Santan Vista water treatment plant, doubling the capacity in that plant from 24 million gallons per day to 48 million gallons per day. That's a use that we went into in conjunction with the City of Chandler so that we would save all of our residents money. And it's been a great partnership. And we're very happy to be able to celebrate that with them together this week. So I think that's all that I have for you right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 24, report from our planning service manager.
Well, good evening, gentlemen, and another good job, but you're not done yet. We still have a couple more to look at, and we are still growing tremendously. We had a great meeting today, kind of a meeting before the submittal of the Phoenix Children's Hospital at Mercy Gilbert, so fantastic project coming our way soon. That area is growing unbelievable, along with other users that want to come in that nearby area. So it's continuing to build. And also the area up by Banner Hospital, too. We've been looking because, of course, we have our general plan update coming. The contract will go to our mayor and council for review next month, hoping to kick it off on July 1st. That's the 10-year update. And we are looking at those large vacant parcels in our community. We really only have 4 very large parcels, all by the same ownership. Not the same ownership, but 4 parcels that don't have many, many owners within each one, which makes wonderful opportunity for mixed use and also a master plan community. So we're looking forward to that, and my guess is that would be coming up in the next 5 years. For that type of development. So we still are growing, and we still have a lot to do. Some of the projects you looked at tonight, specifically the one that was Hampton Court, that's a little eye-opener for us that we're kind of missing a certain range of density that is desirable in our community for those infill parcels. So we'll have to come back to you again and see if there's a zoning district or a general plan category that is more of that urban townhouse lifestyle, whether attached or detached. And it might be somewhere between, the 5 to 8 or the 7 to 9, or do we need to claim that density? But we are missing a zoning district that truly addresses that urban lifestyle. So that's why you're seeing these cases come to you with deviations. It is a housing product that's desirable. We don't have a perfect zoning district to fit it. So as we move forward with our general plan, we're also beginning recommendations for things that we might want to consider as we reach our build-out. And thank you so much for what you do, as always.
Thank you.
Chairman, can I jump in? Because I forgot to
Yes.
mention that most of you probably heard, but Linda Edwards has submitted to retire, and your last day is going to be July 3rd. Is that correct, Linda? So just in case you hadn't heard this afternoon,
Yeah.
Edwards is retiring and leaving us
After-
for fun life.
After 25 years, right?
25
A
years.
lot of town history.
In the system, 18 here with the town of Gilbert. When I came on the planning commission in 2000, Linda Edwards was the chair of the planning commission. So think about that. And then about 9 months later, she left the planning commission to take a job with the planning department here in the town of Gilbert. So we owe her a lot, and she has a great historical perspective on this town and
Yeah.
a wealth of knowledge that will be hard to replace, for sure.
Yes.
July 4th will have a new meaning for Independence Day now, won't it?
Yeah. Commissioner Cavity.
Just zoning classification ideas, we talked about the multifamily high. We might want to throw that in that mix as well, right? So, yeah. And congratulations, by the way. Yeah, we're excited to see what you're going to do.
All right, thank you. With that, we'll go ahead and adjourn our regular meeting. We're going to take a 5-minute restroom break. Stephanie, I think you are up next when we get back.